So far, the Trump campaign and the former president has not released anything on whether the former president believes that this pill should be further restricted. It is Donald Trump who, of course, appointed 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, and that is a big part of his legacy. It's a big reason why President Joe Biden has campaigned on the issue of abortion rights, putting the blame squarely on Donald Trump for some of the consequences that we are seeing ripple across the nation. Big picture here, David, this is absolutely critical. 21 states have severely restricted access to abortion since Roe versus Wade was overturned. 14 states have near total bans on abortion. But the reason why this decision certainly matters here is because if the Supreme Court decided that Mifepristone, the abortion pill used in more than half of abortions in the United States, could be further restricted, that would have had a major impact even in states where abortion is currently legal. And so as of now, people will still be able to access the abortion pill, Mifepristone, by mail without multiple doctor's appointments as well. And that is critical. It's something that many abortion providers were concerned about heading into this. This is the first time that we are seeing the Supreme Court weigh in on this issue since Roe versus Wade was overturned. And obviously, they are also considering another case about whether hospitals can turn away patients who desperately need a medical abortion care. David.
Rachel, just real quickly, since we're covering this presidential race so closely, it is essentially tied in the national polling between Donald Trump and President Biden. As each day goes by, one of them is 1 point ahead of the other, and it switches back and forth. We know this will come down to the battleground states that determine the Electoral College, and in those states, in many of those cases, Donald Trump shows some strength, a couple of points ahead of President Biden. That's why the issue of abortion rights, any one of these issues could be a turning point because the election will be decided sort of on the margins here. So when we're talking about abortion rights in this country, let's bring people up to speed in both camps very quickly here. Former President Trump said in recent days that he would have a lot more to say about abortion rights in this country. Obviously, he's taken credit for the overturning of Roe, said he'd have much more to say, but we haven't seen anything really presented to the American voter here.
No, and definitely not on the abortion pill Mifepristone. The former president teased that he would be releasing more on his policy on that. He has not gone any further. He also left the door open to allowing states to prosecute women who wanted to seek abortion. David, this is an issue that could define this election. We know President Biden will be running on it, but also this is an issue that is going to be on the ballot in as many as a dozen states, including several battleground states, Pennsylvania, Florida, which Democrats believe could be in play for them, as well as Arizona. And so Democrats are going to continue to run on this issue of abortion rights, drawing a very sharp contrast to former President Donald Trump. It is important to note here that in all 6 states where abortion rights has been on the ballot, the issue of abortion rights has won every single time.